to Tune of the Month. I'm Mari Black, and happy April. This month, let's do a jig. It's been a minute since we've done a jig. I love jigs. This is by popular request. You guys have been getting to me with these great requests, so here we go, another one. This is called the Boston Life Jig by the great New England fiddler Frank Ferrel, and it's that awesome driving downy style. Woo, here we go, 2, 3. Thanks for stopping by. I'll see you next month. And if you're ready to learn it, you know how this works. Grab your instruments. Let's dive in. Okay, so you may have already figured out by playing along a little bit or trying to sound out where the root note is on your instrument. We are in G major, 1 sharp, F sharps. And this is a really fun tune because it shows one of the most common variations on the usual form of a fiddle tune that we're used to. We're used to an A section and a B section, and within each section, part 1, part 2, part 1 again, and then an ending, right? We've done this on how many tunes of the month at this point? As well as other tunes in your life. So the B section does follow that form. The A section follows a variation of that form that we think of as, some people call it double or long form jigs, very common in the Downy style, Canadian and the New England styles. And it's no harder than anything else. And it's again, a variation on part 1, part 2, part 1 again ending, because the phrases themselves are a little longer, but the part is the same amount of music. So it works great for dance. So let's check it out, that A section. I'm going to play it through slowly. I'm going to take out any extra ornaments so we can just get a sense of the tune. And if you want, start trying to sound it out with me right away. G major arpeggios, ladies and gentlemen. There are lots of them. 1, 2, 3. That's the length of 2 A sections, although I myself feel a little bit like I might have just played 1 because of that long form. Check it out. I start with part 1 as per usual. It's a G major phrase, part 1. Here's the answering phrase, part 2, with a little turnaround. Repeat back, part 1. Same answering phrase, part 2. But this time with an ending. So it's kind of its own big, part 1, part 2, part 1 again, not really, part 1 again, and then part 2 with an ending. It's how I finish the part 2s, whether it gets me back around to part 1 of the A section again, or if it goes on to the B. So let's check it out. Here's part 1. And you could, by the way, of course, as always, just rewind the video and learn it by playing it with me at that slower tempo over and over. Yeah, authentically like you would in a jam session. And that's great. But if it helps you to break it down a little further, as it might for these longer phrases, that's what we're going to do now. I have 2 pickups. and I'm going to make them leaning pickups, which means I'm going to slur them down bow into the downbeat. They go down the scale, check it out, with that low G being the beginning of the phrase. And one. Yeah, so that's the whole part 1 phrase. Now, because it's a little longer, we're used to part 1's just being 2 bars long. This is 4 bars, so if it felt longer, it's because it is longer. We're going to break it into 2 halves. First half with those descending, leaning pickups, slurring down bow, big fat G major arpeggio. G major, G major, then hop way up high. Yeah, kind of fun, isn't it? I love that big leap. Very clever composing here. Try it again. First half of part 1. G major, G major. Yeah, through both octaves of the G major arpeggio there. My evens team, open 2 and 4 on the bottom. Open, 2, open. Then my odds team, 1 and 3. 3, 1, 3. And then all the way up to my high beat. Try it again with the pickups. G major, G major. There you go. Now notice, aside from that leaning pickup, my bowing is as we would usually see in a jig, separate bows on those 8th notes. When I have the group of 3 8th notes, that's a big little group, right? With a more bow on the beginning 8th note of the group of 3 and way less bow on the 2nd and 3rd of each group, right? And remember from many tunes of the month that when we do big littles back to back, they reverse direction. Down, little, up, little. Now, why am I bothering to look at this bowing right now up at the very top of this tune when we've barely gotten started? Well, it's because that big little bowing, having a contrast in the amount of bow between the big and the littles, is the key to making that jig lilt sound, right? And especially for a downy style jig like this, we want a really lovely, heavy, swingy lilt feel. And that means I want more bow on my bigs and much less on my littles. So I want to start that now as I'm learning the tune so I don't have to relearn the bowing later. Let's do it again. First half of part 1. Big little swing. Right? Yeah, there's a long note at the top there. It's a dotted quarter, so I say swing and finish. One more time. Big little swing. Good. Second phrase, 2 pickups again. Not second, well, it's the second half of the phrase. Yeah, so these 2 pickups are in they're in the middle of the phrase, so I'm not making a big deal about them. They're just separate bows. Yeah, so that's kind of a fun little phrase there. My 2 pickups enclose the downbeat. The downbeat is the G. So the pickups are the note below and then the note above. We call it an enclosure. Enclosed G, it's framing that G note. Enclosed G, little, big, little. Yeah, try that again. Enclosure. This is a neighbor tone. Up the scale, down the scale, land. Nice, easy little patterns in there. Neighbor tone, up the scale, down the scale, land. How's that big little bowing going? Is it lilting? Strong and weak and medium weak. Less bow on those littles. Pretty good. All right, if you need any more reps on that or the previous part of the first phrase, just rewind the video. I'll practice with you as much as you want, don't you worry. But now let's put both those halves together, and it gives us the entire part 1. Double-decker G major arpeggio with a high jump. And then our neighbor tone, up the scale, down the scale, land, is actually not difficult at all. It's just a little longer than we're used to. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, and big. hop up, enclosure, neighbor tone, up the scale, down the scale, land. Nice, let's do it again. Nice, how's that big little bowing? Use less bow on the littles and feel the bigs alternate. Down and up and down and ready. Down, up, little, down, down, up, down. Helps when you keep your fingers on the fingerboard. Let's try one more time. Very nice. So that's half the A section. We've done a lot of work there. Okay, so more repetitions, just rewind. I'm going on. Part 2 is the answering phrase. Now we've been all on the G chord, the 1 chord. We're of course going to answer with the 5 chord, D major. So we've just finished. I'm going to do leaning pickups. That's the whole second phrase. Cool. So let's do it in 2 halves because it's a little longer. The first part has leaning pickups again, and it's the same thing that I did to pick up my G, but now to the D. So this is, again, really clever writing because it's just playing around with a D major arpeggio. I have my leaning pickups go down the scale. D major. Now on this guy, neighbor tone. On this guy, neighbor tone. And then I land at the top. Do you see how that top is just a regular old D major arpeggio? Find that for a second. And now to make it fancy, on each of those notes, use a lower neighbor. We don't need a neighbor on the very top because that's the landing. Try that again. Neighbor tone, neighbor tone. Clever little decoration there. Put the whole D major together, leaning pickups. Nice. One more time. Check that big little bowing. Smaller littles. Down, little, up, little, down, little, up. One more. Okay, so now the second half of this part 2 is the turnaround phrase. This is the phrase that's going to get us back to the beginning of the A section. It looks like this. Leaning pickup, only one of them. Ooh, a little sassy there. How fun. All right, are you catching those little neighbor tones there? My leaning pickup is a downward step, neighbor tone, up the scale, down the scale, chromatic neighbor there, a little C sharp. Technically that's against the rules in the G major key signature, right? We don't have those C sharps, but it's what it's doing is being a chromatic neighbor tone, a half step neighbor tone lower than the D. Now, pocket this idea for the moment, the idea of a chromatic neighbor tone, a half step below. Here's the D that I'm trying to emphasize, and rather than playing a diatonic neighbor, the C natural, I'm raising it to a C sharp, so it's right sitting underneath the scale from the note I'm trying to emphasize. Chromatic neighbor tones make things very sassy and fun. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. You can tell we're going to go somewhere with this once we finish with the section. just in case you might want that, 10 minutes from now. Here, let's do the turnaround. Chromatic neighbor. Very good. One more time. Good, pretty easy. Now let's put that together with the D major part, shall we? This gives us the whole part 2. Part 2 D major and the turnaround phrase. 2 pickups, go down bow, down, little, up, little, neighbor, tone, up. Here's your chromatic neighbor. Nicely done. Let's do it again. Part 2, D major, pickups go down bow, leaning pickups. It's so cute. I love a chromatic neighbor. One more time, please. The whole part 2 with a turnaround. Very good. Now at this point, we have played a long phrase 1 and a long phrase 2 ending in a turnaround. This is the equivalent of 1 A section. And we're now set up to repeat back to the beginning and play part 1 again. Let's do it. G major. Do you remember it? Hop up. Second half. Neighbor, tone, up the scale, down the scale. Pretty good. Let's do that again. So now that your memory's fully jogged, part 1. Very good. You guessed it. We're now back to part 2. Do the first half. The D major is the same as before. Now, we don't want to turn around this time. We want an ending. So it's going to change a little bit. Listen. Starts the same. Nice little triumphant ending there. So same pickup, leaning. Neighbor, tone, up the scale. Yeah, one more time, ending phrase. Good. Let's tag that onto the D major part. So we had done D major turnaround with the sassy chromatic neighbor. Now we're going to do D major with the ending, the high triumphant ending. Ending phrase. Try it again. Can you make those big littles more contrasting? I'm going to keep reminding you, more bow on the bigs, less bow on the littles. It makes a better lilt. Down, little, up, little, down, little, up. Lean down, little, up, little. Good. One more time. Leaning pickup, slur down bow, and down, little, up, little. All right, and there you go. You did a lot of work up front to learn those longer phrases, but now we have 2 whole A sections. Phrase 1, the longer phrase. Phrase 2, finishing with a turnaround. Then we repeat phrase 1 and phrase 2 finishing with an ending. And that gives you 2 A's worth of material. You can think of this as one big part 1, part 2, part 1 again, ending part 2. And think of it as one big A section when it's the same length as 2 normal A sections. You can also think of it as part 1, part 2, turnaround, part 1, part 2, ending. It really, whatever makes the most sense to your brain. But this form is very common whenever we are not doing our usual part 1, part 2, part 1 again, ending, the shorter phrases. So it's great to get used to. Lots of Downy Stigsies. Let's play the whole A music now. This is the equivalent of 2 A sections, however you want to think about it. Part 1 starts in G major, leaning pickup, slur down bow, ready big littles. Down, little, up, little, hop up. Phrase 2, D major. Turnaround phrase. Up the scale. Sassy chromatic. Back to part 1. Phrase 2, G major. Here's our ending. Nicely done. There you go. So that's a great chunk to rewind the video and do a few times, or you could pause the video and do it a few times by yourself. Although playing with me is probably a little more fun while you're getting to know things. It's always nice to have company when we're new at tunes. When I'm new at tunes, I never play them unattended. I'm always using a recording reference, something to help me keep track of where I am. So yeah, rewind. I'll play it with you a whole bunch. Okay, so now that we got the A section, we need the B section. Now here's where life goes back to, shall we say, tune of the month normal. This is not long form. This is a standard part 1, part 2, part 1 again ending. Here, I'll do it. Back to part 1. Ending. There it is. Now, not only is that the form that we're really used to, did you hear how much material is borrowed from the A section? Haha, wink, wink, nudge, nudge. If you didn't, don't worry. You're about to really not unsee it. All right, so part 1. That was a real sentence, I promise. Part 1, we're at G major again, but instead of using the low octave, like we did in the A section, that wonderful declarative low string sound, we're just up in the middle range. I have one pickup, and it is still a leaning pickup. All pickups in this tune are leaning, where I'm slowing them down bow into the downbeat. Helps, gives it extra down east oomph. Here I go. Little connector there. Yeah, not bad at all, is it? It's just a big G major arpeggio. G major, back down. Did you catch that second part? G major. This is A minor. Yeah, the A minor in here is the 2 chord. It's kind of nice to have that little moment of minor chord, a little wistfulness. Add some extra character and depth. Let's try that again. G major, up and down. Here's A minor. Yeah, that little guy at the end there, da-da-dum. That's another little enclosure, right? Where we're enclosing the F sharp. The F sharp's where I want to land. I go below and then above, and I land on the F sharp, framing it out. Good, let's try it again. Part 1, G major. A minor. Enclosure. Nice, let's do that again, but with more contrast between your bigs and your littles. Big, little, big, little. A minor. Very good. Where we just landed takes, that's where part 2 takes off. Sounds like this. Do you notice that is the turnaround phrase from part 1? Neighbor tone, up the scale, sassy chromatic neighbor. Wonder why that felt familiar, huh? That's why. Do it again. Boy, do I have great news for you. We're back to part 1. G major with 1 leaning pickup. A minor. And now guess what? The ending is almost identical to the ending phrase of the A. I'll do it again. And the very last bit of that is identical. That little triumphant fanfare, right? The very first part is the only part that's different. I have a little, it's a part of a D major arpeggio. Then up the scale. Try it again. One more for good measure. And that's it. That's the whole B section. Look how fast and easy when we're back in short form, 2-bar sectors instead of 4-bar sectors. It feels so easy. It's like being shot out of a cannon. And also the borrowing of material from the A section doesn't hurt either. Let's try the whole B section. We'll do 2 of them as is tradition. Get your leaning pickup ready to slur down bow, and then big time, big little contrast. Big, little A minor. Here's part 2. Little sassy chromatic. Repeat part 1. Ready, ending. Up the scale, high, fanfare, land. Let's repeat part 1. Part 2. Back to part 1. Here's our ending. Now this tune, you might find that that B section doesn't feel very final, and you're right. This tune finishes on an A section. We do 2 A equivalent, 2 Bs, and we finish on an A. So let's do that now. A little jog of the memory. Here we go. A section, part 1, long phrase. It's a G major. Hop up. Neighbor tone, up the scale and down. Phrase 2, D major. Little turnaround. Back to part 1. Good. Part 2, D major. This time going in for the ending. Very last B section, A section, you might like to, rather than doing that last little fanfare, let's try that. Just land on that G note, and if you want to make it a G chord, you can add, there's my high G, my second finger, you can add your first finger on the A string next door. Try it again. And if you want to be really snazzy about it, throw in your open G and D string with that last double stop. Something weird happened with my bowing. How about you? Did you try it? That's what I forgot to do if it's the very last time. Slur up so you can go down bow. It's a little scooped ending. We've done that in other tunes. Down, little, up, little, up. Makes life a lot easier. Okay, so that's the whole tune. And you could easily just play it right like that and have a grand old time. It's such good writing from Mr. Ferrel here. Very clever. It's all basically just scales, arpeggios, and neighbor tones, but they're put together so cleverly. It's really got fun shape to it, right? I love jigs that use the whole range from your lowest note on the fiddle all the way up through the highest that we can get without shifting. Very, very cool. Also, because it's using all those basic patterns, there's lots of room, you guessed it, for some variation. Now, all sorts of ways to vary this could be employed here. I'm going to show you my personal favorite. You remember that when I said pocket that idea of the chromatic neighbor? Well, I think this is a pretty sassy little jig. I like to always increase whatever it is the tune is trying to do. If a tune is trying to be lyrical, I'm going to make it extra lyrical. If a tune's trying to be driving, I'm going to try and make it extra driving in my ornaments and bowings and ornamentation, all that stuff. This tune is trying to be sassy. I personally would like to increase that sass, wouldn't you? And my best tool for sassy are using chromatic motion, chromatic neighbor tones. And by extension, that could also be made into a chromatic hammer-on, the grace note hammer-on, which I'm sure all of you know from all your fiddling life, or perhaps all that time you've spent hanging out with me on Tune of the Month. But basically what it would be if I had a, say, a D note. If I wanted to play a hammer-on, I would play the note below as a little grace note. Right now that's a diatonic hammer-on, right? Because I'm in C major, so I'm playing, G major, so I'm playing the C natural. That's a hammer-on. Now if I wanted to make it extra sassy, instead of playing the C natural that belongs to the key, I'm going to make sure that my hammer-on finger is a half step, a chromatic hammer-on away from my regular note, no matter what the key signature says. Do you hear that's much sassier? And it's the same placement as if I played that as a neighbor tone as part of the melody, right? An ornamentation is not really part of the melody. It's just a decoration. But if I play the neighbor tone, it's then become functional as a part of the tune. Okay, so let's play a little game. And you might want to, before you play this game, you might want to like really let the tune settle in, because you're going to want to really know the tune to make this work. Otherwise, it's going to feel a little overwhelming, but that's okay. Sometimes jumping in the deep end's fun. I'm going to play through the A section, and let's see how many sassy chromatic things, hammer-ons and neighbor tones, we can add. I'll play through the first time, and then I'll walk you through what it is I did. Here we go. Pickups. Okay, so it's not actually that many things. They're just really effective. All right, so I've got kind of one feature that I applied to each half of each phrase. And the very first thing, I'm sure you caught it. Ah, it's so good. I put a chromatic hammer on that high landing. That gives a real big emphasis to that. So rather than just landing on that high B, I'm playing the chromatic, the A sharp below. Now, of course, there's a little bit of fine print for this in your hand, string players. If you're a flute player or accordion player, it may not be such a big deal. I don't know your life, you figure it out. But for fiddlers, the note that we're playing in the melody right before that chromatic neighbor tone is a third finger, D, right? Ba-da-da, ba-da, ba-ba-da. So then we have to very quickly shoot that third finger up to make the chromatic hammer-on, right? So if you're feeling that like quick little moment in your left hand, you're right. There's a quick, sneaky little gesture that has to happen there. I personally think it's well worth it to grip the chromatic neighbor. Your choice. Not bad. Try one more time. Nice. Okay, second half. Now here, I'm not really adding any chromaticness. It's already there. That neighbor tone is already chromatic. It's already a half step. And it belongs to the key. But I am trying to emphasize a little bit. Now you may remember from past Tunes of the Month, jig bowing, that usually we'll play big little, big little, big little. We don't do a lot of slurring because that would interrupt the lilting of the jig, especially important in the Down East style. But if I want to really emphasize a neighbor tone, which I do, I can slur that neighbor tone. It ends up being a 3-note slur, so it doesn't change the direction of my bowing. It just adds this gliding feel. We call it a glide slur. Glide slur here. Do you feel how that changes the feel of the tune? Makes it a little sassier. Neighbor tone. Everything else is big little, don't change that. Neighbor tone. Very nice. Put together all of part 1. Chromatic hammer-on the very top, and then slur the half-step neighbor tone in the second half. Here it is. Nice job. All right, if you want to practice any of that, just pause the video. Second half. Check it out. Oh, there's some sass. Okay, now there are neighbor tones here too. Notice I have chosen not to slur these. That is a personal choice. Any neighbor tone in a jig that's on a group of 3/8 notes, this is my 3/8 notes, I can choose if I want to extra emphasize that neighbor tone, I'm going to slur it, glide slur, but I don't have to. I could just play separate big littles like normal. So it's a fun thing to play around, slurring or not slurring your neighbor tones. I have chosen to not slur these, but I have pulled a chromatic neighbor. This one's already chromatic. This one. Woo! Okay, so that E sharp, I'm not even really going to think about that as an E sharp. I'm just going to think about it as the lower neighbor, the lower chromatic neighbor. I need to scooch my first finger to do that. I scooch my first finger back to the nut and then back to me. It's just 1, 1, 1. Try it. Yeah, it's so good. Try it again. And then our turnaround phrase. It's already chromatic. I don't need to do anything to that. We're back to part 1. You know what to do. Chromatic hammer-on. Nice. Slur this if you like. You can slur if you like. Yes. And then nothing much to mess around with there in the ending, so I leave it alone. It's kind of nice after all the drama that I've applied to the rest of the A section to just leave that ending alone to be stately by itself. Okay, let's take a quick look at the B section. I'm not going to walk you through every little option in the same way. I want you to take these same ideas and play around with. Hey, if there's a long note, I could decorate it with a hammer-on. By a long note, I mean not an 1/8 note, a quarter or dotted quarter. There aren't many in this tune, so when they show up, they're noticeable. If there's a long note, I could do a chromatic hammer-on for extra sass. If there's a neighbor tone, I could choose to glide slur it, right? To slur all 3 notes to make it a little more dramatic. And if I wanted to increase the drama even a little more, I could make it chromatic. Make sure it's a half step. Some of them already are, just by the way they fall in the key. But if they're not, I could choose to enhance that if I wanted. Give it a try. B section. Sure. I pulled a couple fast ones there, didn't I? If you went through the B section as we learned it, you might have figured out that there are not actually many long notes. Actually, there are none. And there are not many neighbor tones that are not already chromatic. In fact, there were none. So if I wanted to do those things, I had to create opportunities for them. Go figure. It's part of variation, right? If you want a chromatic hammer-on, you need a long note. If there are any wrong notes, you better go make one. So I did. I did this. Right? At the top of the A minor chord, I turned it into a quarter note. Rather than, I took out the enclosure, is how I made that. Now, if I have that, there it is, the chromatic neighbor. Give it a try. Okay, part two. So there, I do have a neighbor there. If I wanted to make that chromatic, it's that same 1-1-1, right? You know, that's pushing it, even for me. That's very, 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 very sassy. That's borderline so sassy it might not be the tune anymore. Did anybody feel that was pushing it a little far? If you didn't, awesome, do it. That triggered my, you may go a little too far sense, which we all have in the back of our head. Wherever it is, it's correct for you. Whenever that sense tickles for me, I try to say, okay, I remember that's a good trick, but I'm probably going to do it only once in the course of the tune because it's so powerful, so spicy. If I do it every time, it might border on tasteless. Yeah, we love that. Keeping things classy, sassy and classy. Any of these, if you feel they're too much, just back off. Your good taste is a very good thing. All right, so let's try it from part one. Why not? Your choice. And now I could do the same thing. Did you see instead of, I turned that into a chromatic neighbor. Now, somehow I find that less spicy on the ending than I did on the turnaround. So I might play around with that when I'm coming up with my own distinct version of this tune of which place, if I'm only going to use it once, which place is that chromatic neighbor more effective? And again, no wrong answer to this. Try it both places. You probably don't do it both places every time. Because if everything's chromatic, then it stops being sassy. It just starts being normal. So you make sure that you have some not chromatic stuff, the way that Mr. Ferrel wrote the tune, in as well, right? And then add the sass just a couple of little places, and it makes such a difference. All right, so that's lots for you to play with. And by the way, if you're thinking, this could work in a lot of my other tunes, you're darn right it could. The idea of the chromatic hammer-on and the chromatic neighbor tone, they come out of the same family, the same palette of sassiness, and works great in jigs, also works great in other tune types. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge, and you could go check that out. But hopefully that gives you lots to work on. As always, jig bowing, big little, big little. The more contrast in the amount of bow between the bigs and the littles, the liltier it is. All right, so there's the tune. Hopefully you really love it and it's fun and you can play with this and take these ideas elsewhere. As always, if you find it helpful to see sheet music for this and any future tunes of the month, you just have to make sure that you're subscribed to my email newsletter. Go to my website, www.mariblack.com, and sign up for the email newsletter. It's my once a month hello to all my fiddle friends out there, and each month I will include my own handwritten version of the current tune of the month. So if you're already signed up, you already have Boston Life sitting in your inbox, should you need it. And if you are subscribing in the future, hope it's nice out there, and you will have future tunes of the month coming to you. Yeah. All right, that's what I got for you. I will look forward to seeing you guys next month. Stick around for more tunes.